We are seeing a generation that is marked by access more than anything else. They are not particularly interested in ownership. I have a niece who told me, I don't think I will ever own a car. I'm happy to
Uber everywhere.
For the rest of my life.
Hey everybody, my name is Angie Murenga. You're watching Just Angie. It's Joan Monday, and we're having a conversation around access, which is the theme for this year's Unstuck conference. We hold the Unstuck conference every year, and this year we have 2 dates on the 1st and the 8th of August, and it's all going to be on Zoom, and it's going to be a webinar, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. So I just wanted to have a conversation with the leaders who are making this event happen. But more importantly, I want Joan to introduce herself, and then she came up with a theme of access, so she can tell you why and how and what were her thoughts behind it. Karibu, Joan.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome.
So my name is Joan Kimani. I'm a mother.
Yes.
I'm a wife.
Yes.
I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm also a communications specialist. I love God. I'm born again. Interestingly, I got born again doing Purpose and Leadership
Yes.
platform, one of your forums, one of your classes.
Yeah.
And it's been an amazing journey. I would say it's been, I think, nearly 3 years now, and it's been an amazing 3-year journey. I just feel so refreshed, and I thank you for being so obedient. I tell you that all the time, that your obedience has done amazing things for me.
Amen.
Yeah.
I really thank God, and I'm
Thank
really
you.
grateful. You know, it's just doing our part,
Yes.
and then God does the rest. So
He
I'm really
does.
grateful about that. So yeah, it's already been 3 years. That's amazing. So I wanted us to talk about, first of all, you love sustainability and partnerships.
Yes.
So what is all that about?
So I worked in, before I started a furniture business with my sister.
Yes.
About how many years now? Since 2012. And at the time it seemed like a side hustle because I was involved in employment for a very long time. And actually I only left employment when she had built the business to a point where I could live safely. Compared to most people, by the grace of God, I was able to live and not kind of like start from the beginning because she had been running it for a long time. So I joined her about 2 years ago. In that 2 years when I joined her, because I knew that this is a business that God has blessed, and I had come from a communications background, and yet our business is a furniture and events business. What I thought is I was going to then go and start the communications side because I was employed in a strategic communications consultancy. So the obvious thing that I thought I was going to do is
Communication.
yes, that this is events, and now I'm bringing the communications expertise. And so for a long time, you know, the last 2 years since I left employment, I was trying to kind of find my footing there. And yet what my sister does, she does it so amazingly well. She does the commercial side of things. She's the brains behind the creativity and the brains behind the growth of the business. And so kind of just trying to find my place. But the one thing I knew that was very obvious is even when I was in employment, I had a thing for people. So there was a thing of I'm very good at one thing, but there's another thing that I like to do, you know? So when it comes to communications, things like public relations and strategic thinking and all of that, it came easy.
Yeah.
And so that's why I thought that's the next thing. But it wasn't the thing I exactly enjoy. It's a thing I can do. And I think a lot of people are like that, where there's a thing you excel at, but there's a thing that you also like to do. And so by the grace of God, I have been feeling the leading that I am able to merge both. So while I was in the communication side, I started to learn a lot about what sustainability is, and then putting that together with my background in communication. And I started to see I'm not necessarily coming to start a communications side. I have a love for people, so I wanted to put the people there, love for environment, love for giving back. So now I started to see whatever I'm going to do is going to be in that area. And I think the greatest comfort I got is a verse in the Bible, which is 2 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse 8, that says, and God will give all grace or make all grace abound toward you so that in everything that you do with all the sufficiency, you're able to do good work. So for me, that became our anchor scripture for our business, because what I started to see is we are starting to move towards an element of, yes, God is blessing the business, but he's blessing it for something else. And that something has a lot to do with sustainability. So it's an element of, one example I can give is, God is the owner of all the wealth, but then he needs channels through which to pass the wealth so that then it can get to his people. So while you may have been blessed with a business that's doing great things, the great things are not an end in itself. It's that it's a channel. And so that's where sustainability started to get in. And then different things, looking at our business, because it's a furniture business, of course, it means that we are going to use a lot of wood, for example. Looking at ways of, okay, so how do we replenish then? Because you can't just take. Yes, there has to be an element of replenishing. So those are the things that I am now looking at incorporating into the business. So in an element of sustainability and also partnerships, just meaning bringing people on board who have a similar interest, who have similar values to do things either for their employees or for the environment or just for the spaces that they work in. But the one thing I know I'm very clear about is we first have to start with where we are. You know, you start with family, you start with employees, you start with community before you go out there and impact and do many big things. And you talk about it all the time when you talk about Nehemiah. And I know it's one of the big lessons in purpose and leadership, and how he really wanted to build the wall. But then the best way to do it was each person take your small bit. So that's what I strongly believe in.
That's so amazing. And you know, it comes into, because also partnerships, I love the model. I know we've done another Just Angie with your sister with lifestyle.
Yes.
But your model is partnership.
Yes.
It's not jumping ahead and going to get the business.
Exactly.
You found a model where you partner with other people who get the events, and then they partner with you to bring your furniture on board, which is so brilliant. And that you're not trying to cut out everybody else and do everything. I find that very unique about your business.
Thank you.
And now I can see another angle has come in with sustainability. And I've been reading a lot that we're not able to do anything without partnerships. I mean, even Unstuck and everything that I do, including the 4 signature events I do in a year, I wouldn't be able to do it without all the partners. Even the PLF, I mean, Purpose and Leadership, I could not be able to do anything without the partnerships. People were facilitating it all over the world in different places, coming up with the material, coming up with the content, coming up with the programs, policies, you know. So it's taken a whole army to do this, and that's very, very encouraging. And it also brings me to the point of access. Because your sister, because she started the business, she gave you access now. Now you could come from work and access this organization. And then also she provided no, I think that's access. So she allowed you to get into the business, which is important. And she gave you a place that you could. I like the way when you said it the other day, because I like saying it as well. And I saw you do it in your presentation about plug and play. So I'd like us to talk about why the theme of access, why it came to you, and then just a snippet of pipes and platforms, because you're going to do it at the opening of the Unstuck conference, and I don't want to give them everything.
Okay. So how access came about, you know, we've been, we were thinking about the theme that is for this year. And I remember we had just come off a class that you had organized with SK Blue. And for any viewer who wants to understand a bit more, I think it's good to go to previous Just Angie shows that had SK Blue in them, because he talked a bit about it. But one of the things that struck me is it's very important to know the season and the generation and really the time that we are in. And even though I understood it, I never understood it as clearly as when he brought it up. Because what he said is, think about the generation of your parents or your grandparents, and how there was something that marked that generation. There was a thing that they viewed as important to them. So back in the day, I think it was coming off colonialism and now looking at freedom and then looking at a good education and then down to our parents, it became now we are focusing on how do we leave a good heritage to our children. So therefore ownership was a big thing, and that's why I think for all of us it's very easy to say that we'll probably never own half the things that our parents do. That's and true. It's because it's something that they started long before and it's something that they really believed in.
And but they had value in it.
And they had value in it, the same way that they did education. I think that really marked that generation. Coming down now to our generation and the younger ones, and particularly the younger ones, I would say from your daughter and younger, they don't really care too much for ownership.
They don't care about ownership. I've been trying to tell her the apartment I have is hers. She's very non-interested, you know?
Exactly.
They don't care about owning things.
They're more interested in accessing it. Yes. So if I can access a book without buying a hard copy book, or if I can access the music, or I can access a hotel, or I can access transport through Uber. So really we are seeing a generation that is marked by access more than anything else. They are not particularly interested in ownership. I have a niece who told me, I don't think I will ever own a car. I'm happy to
Uber everywhere.
For the rest of my life. And I asked her, what do you mean? And she said, sit down and do the math. The amount of money it will take me to put down a deposit for a car or save for a car or even get a loan, that money, if I can put it gradually into the Uber for the next 5 years, it may be one or more or less the same amount. I don't have to drive. I can do my own thing as the driver is driving, pick me and drop me. That was her logic.
Convenience.
Yes. And then recently a friend of mine told me it's a generation that has taken it to another level where they don't even own homes anymore, or they don't own a geography. So that generation doesn't really mind about where we are going to end up. You know, like for us, you know, it will be in this area, I will buy a home and retire there.
We even have a dream and a vision about it.
Yes, for them home is where my mother is. Home is where my people are. But for me, I will live anywhere in the world. I can live anywhere. I can even live on a boat. You know? And that tells you there's something very powerful about access. Access in relation to ownership. And when we talked about it last year, that's how we started to come up with this topic. And to think, at that time, for sure, Pastor Angie, the spaces you are in, God is in that space. Because how we talked about access and said we are going to have it in August, we talked about it last year. And right now, during this period of this pandemic, really, it's all about access. Because people are not moving around.
They're not.
Yes, but they want to be able to access. That's why the internet is probably the biggest thing right now. People want to access. People want to access their food. People are ordering a lot more. I mean, if you think about it, access is now such a big topic. And to think we came up with that topic under your guidance.
It's just God.
It's amazing. It's so timely.
Yeah, it really is. But it's also important, I think, with obedience to do that. Because I remember when I was saying PLF season 30 is closing.
Yes.
People have even written to me. They said, no, you cannot close. Let's just continue. You know, people, it's so easy. And it's not meant in a bad way. They're trying to say, you know, you can't just shut it down.
Yes.
But I had heard it, and I filmed it, I think last year in February.
Yes, you did.
And we recorded it. It's taking a lot longer to edit, and it's now finally getting there. But thank God for listening and just doing it. Because I think I remember that access conversation.
Yes.
We were all seated somewhere just talking and coming up with what we want the theme to be next year without understanding that there's a pandemic that's coming that's all going to be around access.
Exactly.
And that's amazing. And it's just shifted the conversation.
Completely.
You know? And even I've listened to stories all over the world even about people, and especially even like churches that cannot access the people because they didn't get into the right access. They didn't have media and ways to engage their audiences. So that's just changed the conversation and shifted the conversation.
Completely.
And it's not like we knew. We didn't know. We just obey.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about obedience. It's just taking one step after the other. If God has said, we do.
Exactly.
And then for me, I have the unique thing about hindsight. Because honestly, I've been working with God for in terms of ministry and taking drastic steps and measurements for the last 13 years. So this fire has not let me down. So he's not about to start. So if he says we do, we do, and we move forward. Amazing. And I love that it's also modeled to the rest of you, just to be doers.
Oh, so much.
To be doers. Just do it. God says this, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. And let's move on.
Yeah.
Wow, I love that so much. And it's amazing also because we have to think to the generation. So the generation that we're in is a generation of access. They don't want anything else. They just want access. But I'm thinking if we could psychoanalyze, like parents, my parents, I think if they listened very closely, like to my daughter's age generation, they'd be very afraid. They're like, you guys, there's something is off here. You don't want this. No, we are interested in other things.
Completely.
You know? And then the world is open up to them. They can work anywhere. They can go, and they don't have any fear to go to see what will happen out there. I'm like, wow, okay. So that's the conversation of access. Would you like to touch on pipes and platforms? Very little, because I want them to be eager to come and see it, because you did an amazing presentation. Absolutely amazing on pipes and platforms.
Thank you so much. Very amazing. Thank you.
And pipes and platforms that we can plug and play.
Yes. So, when I spoke about, when I thought about access, I thought about it in two ways, and one is pipes and another one is platforms, because both of them provide access. Because a pipe is known as, something hollow that will allow gas, will allow liquid, whatever, and it will allow access of something from one point to another. And thinking about that, I started to realize that there are so many dimensions of a pipe. There are so many characters of a pipe. Maybe just one sneak peek is that even though a pipe will allow access, a pipe does not own the substance that it carries.
That was so powerful.
Because sometimes we get caught in ownership without thinking that the reason, for example, God has put me on this earth is a lot to do with not just myself, what I own, what I eat, what I enjoy, but what I pass through. And therefore, I have to be able to pass through. And if I hold it onto myself like this, so if it's the pipe and it decides, I'm sorry, but this is too much oil, going too far, let me keep the oil to myself, then it means that a lot of oil will not pass through. And by the nature of being a pipe, is that the more you allow to flow, the more you can allow. Yes, the more will flow through. And a pipe will reach destinations. At the beginning, this is just the beginning, but when you look at the destinations that a pipe can go through, and destinations for me meant think about the things that you can do when you allow God to provide access to his people through you. That's how people get awards. That's how people travel the world. But it's only because of obedience that you just started something. You didn't think too much of yourself. You thought about what is God is telling you to do. But by that association, that's what we talked about, that a pipe, by virtue of allowing the contents to go through, will always remain wet. So even if you give, even if you let it all pass, the pipe will always be wet.
So it's so powerful. And especially I'm thinking because of our context, even as Africans.
Yes.
And I don't know why we have a tendency, maybe it's the different generations, to want to keep things, to hoard things. But then we're talking about a generation that they just want to pass through the pipe. Exactly. And you can just see people are just passing through your pipe, laughing and smelling, and they're off. But that's who they are. Let's get through the pipe, but the pipe remains wet. There's a blessing to the pipe. Exactly. The pipe remains relevant. Yes. The pipe is still carrying more value, and more is added to it. I was like, brilliant analogy.
If you've seen a pipe in a compound where water passes through, you will know where the pipe was, because the entire place the pipe has passed is green. Everywhere else, even if it is, especially like if you're watering grass or whatever it is, everywhere the pipe passes, it must be green. That is the impact. That is the impact, yes.
Wow. I'm sure you want to hear more, but you're going to have to wait. For the Unstuck conference, we have 2 days. We have amazing panelists. I think we have 6 panelists.
Yes.
And so keep looking out for the information as we post the details. And I'm sure you've loved that conversation. If you want to talk to Joanne, we'll also put her details on the actual show, so that you can email her, you can talk to her, and you can engage her in the way that you want to, because even this is access.
Yes,
we're giving her access to all of you. So we really bless God for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Joanne.
much
I've really
for having me.
Enjoyed that conversation. I can't wait to see, because I think it's an access generation, but it's also access for a decade, an era. It's a season.
Exactly.
And I love the way it started, so I can't wait to see how this access is going to play out.
Thank you. And if I can just add one more thing, it was just this morning that I was reflecting further on access and just thinking, wow, God is so amazing. The biggest model of access is actually the Bible. It's actually God's word, because it gives us access to his thoughts, to him, to his promises, to his redemptive plan. I mean, people need to tune in to when we will have this access conversation, because it's so amazing. We're going to have a good time.
And you know, they said, as you was talking about access, that one of the most Googled topics online in the search engine is church online. That was amazing.
Wow.
And then I didn't know that the book that's been sold the most in the world continuously and consistently is the Bible. So somebody has to be reading it. You know, all these people want to tell us they don't believe in God. Who's buying the book?
Who is buying it? Putting money behind it.
And this church online was even before the pandemic.
My goodness, amazing.
That people wanted to access this church, but they didn't want to drive to the church. Wow. So even at that time, they were Googling church online. Wow. That was amazing. So that's a very powerful place.
And timely, yes, and very timely as well.
And that God's word has everything. It has all the answers, it has everything. And maybe that's why it's been fought so much.
Yeah.
But we need to access his word, to access his thoughts, to access his plan. And now we have access to the word of God online through so many different platforms and forums. So, and we thank God for the platforms as well. Thank you. We can plug and play and deliver the word. Wow.
Wow, thank you
so much
for
being here.
having me. I've had
We're looking
really
forward
good
to
time.
Unstuck, and you're moderating this year, so
yes,
that's
I
am. We shall look forward to you engaging the panelists.
Yes.
Yeah. God bless you so much. That's Murenga Monday. This is our nation. This is our continent. This is our time. These are our people, and we thank God for access. God bless you. See you at the Unstuck conference on the 1st and the 8th of August. Bye-bye.